I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 32F, for 8 years. Our relationship began in college, where we were both studying business. We dated for 3 years before tying a knot and settling into what I believed was a happy marriage. My wife works at a prestigious marketing firm, where she has been employed for the last 4 years. Her boss, 36F, is the company's owner and built the business from the ground up. She is attractive, highly accomplished, and, according to my wife, quite intimidating in the workplace. I had met her a few times at company events, and while she was always polite, she remained somewhat distant around me, something I now understand had a different reason than I originally assumed. About 6 months ago, my wife's behavior started to change. She became distant, constantly glued to her phone, staying late at work, and generally pulling away from our relationship. When I confronted her, suspecting she might be having an affair, she denied it. Instead, she dropped a bombshell on me. "I think we should open our marriage," she said one evening after dinner. "We're still young, and I feel like we're missing out on experiences. Don't you want more excitement in your life?" I was stunned. We had never discussed anything like this before. From my perspective, our intimate life was fulfilling, and we had built a comfortable life together. When I asked what brought on this sudden change, she gave vague explanations about personal growth and exploring new relationship dynamics. After weeks of discussions, arguments, and even a few sessions with a marriage counselor, I reluctantly agreed. My wife was persistent, insisting that this arrangement would strengthen our marriage and that it was purely physical. She laid out specific rules: no involvement with close friends, complete honesty, and the right to veto any partner the other chose. "This will be good for us," she assured me. Trust me, the truth was, I had no real desire to date other women. I loved my wife and was content with our monogamous relationship. However, she seemed thrilled about the idea, immediately downloading dating apps and eagerly planning new encounters. It felt as though she had been preparing for this for a while. She wasted no time jumping into the dating scene. She would come home late, sometimes smelling of alcohol and men's cologne, offering me only vague details about her outings. When I asked questions, she would dismiss my concerns. "Remember, we agreed not to be jealous, or it's just physical. Don't make this weird." I felt miserable. My self-esteem plummeted as I imagined my wife with other men. But since I had agreed to this arrangement, I had no choice but to accept it. After a month of sitting at home alone while my wife enjoyed her newfound freedom, I decided that if this was our new reality, I might as well participate. That's when I received an unexpected message on LinkedIn, of all places. It was from my wife's boss, Victoria, asking if I'd like to meet for coffee to discuss a potential collaboration. Since I work in event planning, not marketing, I found this unusual but agreed out of curiosity. When we met, it quickly became clear there was no business opportunity. Victoria admitted that she had always found me attractive, but had kept her distance out of respect for my marriage. However, she recently learned from my wife that we were now in an open relationship. "I hope this is inappropriate," Victoria said, "but I wanted to ask you out since the first company Christmas party when we met. Your wife mentioned you're both seeing other people now, so I thought I'd finally take my chance." I was shocked, not just by Victoria's interest in me, but by the fact that my wife had openly discussed our personal arrangement at work. It felt unprofessional and incredibly private. Victoria was undeniably stunning, accomplished, and surprisingly easy to talk to. Once we moved past the initial awkwardness, our conversation flowed effortlessly. We ended up talking for hours, and I found myself genuinely enjoying her company. Since my wife was already embracing the open relationship, I figured, why shouldn't I? Victoria and I began dating, and it was nothing short of incredible. She was attentive, passionate, and genuinely interested in me as a person. We bonded over shared interests, travel, fine dining, and similar life goals. I didn't expect my wife's reaction when she discovered I was seeing Victoria. One night, Victoria dropped me off at home after a date. Just as I was stepping out her luxury car, my wife arrived at the same time and caught us kissing. Her face twisted in pure shock before morphing into uncontrollable rage. Without saying a word, she stormed inside. I followed, bracing myself for the inevitable confrontation. You're dating my boss?" She shrieked the moment I shut the door. "Of all the women in this city, you chose Victoria?" I calmly reminded her that we had agreed to an open marriage and that she had been dating multiple men for months. "That's different," she insisted. "You're sleeping with my boss. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for me? Everyone at work will know." I pointed out the hypocrisy. "You were the one who wanted an open marriage. You've been staying out late for months. You're the one who told your boss about our private arrangement in the first place." That's when she dropped another revelation. Apparently, Victoria had always been competitive with her at work, promoting others over her despite her hard work. My wife believed Victoria was dating me purely to humiliate her. "She's using you to get at me," my wife insisted. "She's always been jealous of what I have." I found this ridiculous and told her so. "Maybe she's just attracted to me. Have you considered that?" My wife demanded that I stop seeing Victoria, citing the veto rule we had set. I refused. That rule was intended to protect against uncomfortable situations, not as a tool for control when one partner simply disliked the other's choice. Over the next few weeks, my relationship with Victoria deepened while my marriage deteriorated. My wife swung between cold silence and furious arguments, accusing me of betraying her. She even went as far as spreading false rumors at work, claiming that Victoria was abusing her authority by dating me. When that didn't work, she confronted Victoria's brother, who also worked at the company, and falsely accused me of being a serial cheater. Fortunately, Victoria didn't believe the lies. The final straw came when my wife showed up at a restaurant where Victoria and I were having dinner. She caused a massive scene, threw a glass of wine at Victoria, and screamed that she was a man-stealing homewrecker before security escorted her out. That night, when I returned home to pack some clothes, my wife was waiting, her eyes filled with tears. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "I never should have suggested opening our marriage. Can we close it and go back to how things were? I'll do anything." I finally asked a question that had haunted me from the start. "Why did you really want an open marriage? Were you already seeing someone?" After a long silence, she confessed. She had developed feelings for a co-worker and had already slept with him before proposing the open marriage. She wanted to continue that relationship without the guilt of cheating, but it didn't work out. "He was just using me for sex and bragging about it to his friends," she admitted. "I risked our marriage for nothing." I felt a cold, unforgiving anger settle in. I had endured enough. Our entire open marriage arrangement had been founded on deception. She never sought mutual discovery or a means to strengthen our bond. She merely wanted retroactive approval to justify her infidelity. "And now you're upset because I found someone who actually values me?" I asked, my voice steady. "I didn't think you would," she admitted, a rare moment of unfiltered honesty. "I didn't think anyone would be interested in you." That single remark shattered any lingering doubts I had about how she truly perceived me. In her eyes, I had been the safe bet, the dependable husband who would patiently wait at home while she indulged in her whims. She never anticipated that I would find someone else, let alone someone like Victoria, who was objectively more accomplished and striking than she was. That was the moment I decided our marriage was over. I told my wife I wanted a divorce and left to stay with my brother while I sorted everything out. She flooded my phone with messages, oscillating between desperate apologies, bitter accusations, and emotional pleas to salvage our marriage. When that didn't work, she took a more insidious approach. She contacted my parents, claiming I was going through a midlife crisis and being manipulated by a wealthy woman. My mother, initially worried, listened as I laid out the full truth. Her disappointment wasn't directed at me, but at my wife, whom she had always embraced as her own daughter. Not stopping there, my wife reached out to our mutual friends, twisting the narrative to depict herself as the wrong party, carefully omitting that she had initiated the open marriage and had been unfaithful long before our agreement. Some acquaintances sided with her, but those who truly knew us saw through the deception. Her most spiteful move was contacting Victoria's family, including her elderly parents, in a desperate attempt to tarnish my reputation. She portrayed me as a gold digger exploiting their daughter. Victoria was livid, but as always, she handled it with grace. She reassured her family of our relationship's sincerity, making it clear that my wife's words were nothing more than a vengeful ploy. Victoria suggested I stay at her place while I figured out my next steps. I accepted, and living with her, even temporarily, made me realize how different this relationship was from my marriage. With Victoria, there was mutual respect, transparent communication, and genuine warmth. Things my wife had never truly given me. At work, my wife's behavior grew erratic. She missed deadlines, lashed out at colleagues, and made barely concealed snide remarks about Victoria in meetings. After repeated warnings, Victoria had no choice but to place her on a performance improvement plan, handled through HR to maintain professional integrity. Instead of correcting her conduct, my wife retaliated, alleging workplace harassment and threatening legal action. The company's legal team, well aware of the personal dynamics, meticulously documented every incident and conducted employee interviews, all of which contradicted her claims. With her strategy failing, she ultimately resigned, blaming both Victoria and me for her career's downfall. During the divorce proceedings, she tried every possible tactic to delay the process or extract a larger settlement. She fabricated claims about shared assets, attempted to paint my relationship with Victoria as pre-divorce infidelity, conveniently ignoring the open marriage arrangement, and even pleaded emotional distress. Fortunately, I had documented everything, including her written acknowledgement that she had been unfaithful before suggesting an open marriage. My lawyer advised an offer a reasonable settlement to avoid unnecessary conflict, which I did. But my wife, consumed by resentment, initially refused, demanding more than half of our assets despite contributing far less over the years. It was Victoria who devised a shrewd strategy. "She's not just after her fair share. She wants to punish you," Victoria observed. "What if you offer slightly more than what's legally required, but with a deadline?" Appealed to her greed while limiting her ability to drag this out. It worked. Faced with the prospect of prolonged legal battles she couldn't afford now that she was unemployed, my wife begrudgingly accepted the offer. The divorce was finalized 6 months after I moved out. During that time, my relationship with Victoria flourished. We officially moved in together after the divorce was settled, and for the first time, I experienced what a truly supportive partnership felt like. Victoria encouraged my career ambitions, introduced me to her circle of successful and welcoming friends, and showed me that love should be a source of strength, not constant turmoil. Not long after, I ran into my ex-wife's sister at a grocery store. She seemed uneasy but stopped to talk. "I know what really happened," she said quietly. "My sister admitted everything when she was drunk at my place one night. She never believed you'd find someone else, especially not someone like Victoria. She thought you'd try dating, fail, and then be grateful to close a marriage on her terms when she was done exploring." She then revealed something even more telling. My wife had been envious of Victoria long before I had ever entered her life. Victoria embodied everything she believed she deserved: success, wealth, admiration, and influence. When I started dating Victoria, it wasn't heartbreak that drove my wife's outrage. It was the fact that, once again, Victoria had something she wanted. "She's moving out of state next month," her sister added. "Says there are too many painful memories here. Just thought you should know." I felt a tangle of emotions: relief that my ex-wife would no longer be interfering in my life, sorrow for the wasted years spent with someone who never truly respected me, and immense gratitude for the unexpected chain of events that led me to Victoria. Victoria and I are now engaged. We're planning a small ceremony surrounded by close friends and family, focusing on building our future instead of dwelling on the past. Her company continues to thrive, and with her encouragement, I've started my own event planning business, something I never thought possible. As for my ex-wife, I've heard through mutual friends that she's dating someone new in her new city. I genuinely hope she's found what she was looking for and has learned from our past. If there's a lesson in all of this, perhaps it's that the thrill you think you desire isn't always worth sacrificing stability you already have. And sometimes, what seems like your worst downfall is actually the gateway to something far greater. The irony isn't lost on me. Her desire to open our marriage ultimately led to its demise, and in turn, to me discovering a love deeper and more fulfilling than I ever imagined. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it but not in the way you expect.